Hey there, internet friends. Trevor Starkey here with another episode of AC Discovery, where I sit down and talk about anime or comics on my weekly Saturday show. And this week we continue along with the anime version of Death Note, even though the Netflix movie version, which is getting, unanimous praise from everybody, except it's really not, that just came out this last weekend. But I'm continuing on with the anime, and hopefully my reactions to the anime are more entertaining than the film version of the anime that Netflix just put out. At least based on my Twitter feed of the people who are watching it, it seems like they might be. But holy shit, a lot of things happened in these 3 episodes. So we're going to go over Frenzy, Revival, and Silence today. And where we last left off, Higuchi, who had taken over as Kira for the Yatsuba group, he was basically, the L's task force was in the middle of a sting operation for him to try and kind of get him to reveal how he kills people. And so when we last left off, he was like rushing to the talent agency where he thought Matsuda worked to try and get Matsuda's name so that he could kill Matsuda before he revealed that Higuchi was Kira live on the air or whatever. And basically everything kind of goes according to plan here. The task force is introduced to the idea of Rem, and because Higuchi is kind of muttering to himself and talking to Rem and asking Rem questions on his drive, and L correctly assumes and identifies that Rem is a Shinigami. So you have that. You have Higuchi getting the fake name from the talent agency, trying to write it down in the Death Note, but the task force doesn't realize that that's what he's done. They just think he's jotting down a name for later. So Higuchi kind of runs away and gets in his car, and then after 40 seconds has passed and Matsuda hasn't died, Higuchi basically says, "Damn it! All right, let's make the deal," to get the Shinigami eyes, of course, and. He tips his hand when a police officer pulls him over for speeding, and then almost immediately dies in an accident after Higuchi runs away. The task force realizes, oh, he can kill without a name now. He can somehow get a name or whatever. So they start treating him as second Kira, and basically start making sure that this guy can't even see their faces if they approach. Higuchi goes back to the Yatsuba building to try and get video footage so he could see Matsuda's real name, but Matsuda's been wiped from all the video footage, so that's a no-go. So he rushes to the TV studio where everybody has been evacuated and replaced by mannequins, and they're just kind of playing pre-recorded audio. And so Higuchi gets there and basically freaks out and tries to play it off like, no, he would just wanted to come talk to somebody, but then he runs away. And as he's fleeing, we get this nice little hero moment for Azawa, who was the police officer who left the task force to rejoin the police, and he blocks Higuchi's kind of escape attempt on the freeway with a bunch of police officers with their tinted windows. So, and then lastly we get Watari getting to show kind of how badass he is as a sniper by shooting out Higuchi's tire and the gun out of Higuchi's hand before he can kill himself. And also apparently L can fly a helicopter. So this was basically an exciting episode from start to finish, which, when looking at all 3 episodes that I'm going to talk about today, you had this very exciting episode, then you had a very kind of revelational episode, and then you had a very somber episode. So it's a very it was like every episode today has its own timbre. So moving on to Revival, we get immediately Higuchi confessing and explaining what the notebook is and what it can do. Mr. Yagami grabs it and immediately sees Rem and starts freaking out. L touches the notebook and can also see Rem. And then Light grabs the notebook from L and gets all of his memories flooding back to him. We get to see the flashback, the sequence basically that occurred between him and Ryuk and Rem before he went in and imprisoned himself, but while Misa was still imprisoned. He basically hands the notebooks around, so everybody's kind of touched everybody else's notebook, and kind of uses that to play into his master plan, where he relinquishes his notebook to Ryuk and says, Ryuk, give it to Rem. So the notebook that Rem has had this whole time is Light's original notebook. And he basically says, okay, so like, give that to somebody who's power hungry and power mad, and, you know, when I'm not under the spell anymore, I will try and hunt down the new Kira, and that's how I'll get the notebook back eventually. And it worked. With his memories restored, he immediately turns back into homicidal douchebag Light and kills Higuchi with a piece of the Death Note that he had hidden in his watch. So that was like a clever little thing. And I audibly laughed aloud at how clever the idea of getting Ryuk to write fake rules into the Death Note was. So you have two new fake rules that are introduced. One is that any human who has touched the notebook, if the notebook is like destroyed, the humans that have touched it will die. So the whole task force is like, well, we don't want to destroy this notebook. And then an extra rule has been created to say that if the notebook cannot go more than 13 days without being used, basically. And that, in essence, clears, quote-unquote, Light and Misa from suspicion because they'd been held for a couple weeks before the killings started again. And also here you have Light telling Misa where she can find the old Death Note, her old Death Note. You have a note in there basically telling her to kill L, and they can live happily ever together. They can, you know, build their new world together. But she can't remember his name, so she, of course, makes the deal with Ryuk to get the Shinigami eyes again, and in turn halves her life a second time. So lots of action in that first episode, lots of plot and like character development, and Light returning and getting his memories back and turning back into Mastermind Manipulator. Misa getting her Kira powers back. Everybody's kind of reset the status quo, but now they're like in the clear effectively. Then lastly, we have the episode Silence here. And I don't know how I hadn't made a parallel between Watari and Alfred until now, but the kind of opening sequence suggests L and Watari at like a funeral, presumably for his parents or something like that. They're at a church somewhere, and Watari is being like the dutiful butler, just like Alfred and a young Bruce Wayne. So we have Misa returning as Kira. She gets all dolled up, goes out and kills lots of people. And because of how quickly it happens after her release, everybody basically assumes, oh, she's got to be Kira. She's killing again. We were wrong to release her. I don't know how she got away with it, but she did. So with this whole 13-day rule, so we need to like figure this out. And basically, with Misa being suspect number one, Light knows that Rem is going to try and protect her, and in doing so, would risk Rem killing itself. I've been saying Rem is a her. Probably because of the lipstick stuff, but it's alluded or it's referenced in this episode that it was a he, maybe. So himself, I guess. We take a really weird left turn in this episode into like cute anime boys drying each other off in the rain. That was awkward, I think. Like just the drastic tonal shift in that. It I guess makes a little bit more sense given where the episode ends here. But it was like what is going on? This just seems like a weird like fan fiction hentai thing that we're heading down, and I don't know if that's where we should be going. So that was awkward, but it did suggest that maybe L knew more than he was letting on, and we ultimately have in this episode the game changer of Rem killing Watari and L, sacrificing itself to save Misa. So in a matter of minutes, Watari, L, and Rem are gone, and Light has a new Death Note in his possession that he kind of grabs and hides. So that was drastic. In his final death moments, Watari deletes everything, and right before he died, L had basically set a plan in place that he was going to use the Death Note and have somebody currently on death row to write somebody else's name into the Death Note for the execution, and that person in death row was going to only had like less than 13 or only had 13 days in their sentence left, and so they were going to basically test the 13-day rule, because I think Elle kind of suspected that seemed like a weird rule. It seemed like the only rule outside of kind of the norm. It was the only one that had like numbers, I think, is what he was starting to say. But he's gone, so we'll have to see where all of that goes. It looks right now, with, you know, through 25 episodes of this series out of, I think, 37, I think. So we're 2/3 of the way through, and Light has effectively no real competition anymore, outside of presumably his father is where I'm guessing this will pick up. I'm guessing his father will kind of take the charge on the Kira case, but I don't know. Like, I don't know how you beat Light at this point. It's going to be interesting. Maybe Misa will get mad that Rem is dead. Yeah, it's going to be... Weird theories abound as to where we go from here for the final act of the 3-act structure of the show, I guess. Because yeah, this was a big change I didn't see coming. So interesting to see where Death Note goes from here. I'm looking forward to it. Wondering if Elle had contingency plans kind of in the works. Yeah, weird. So those are my thoughts on these episodes of Death Note. Let me know what you thought of them if you've been watching along with me in the comments below. I imagine you haven't been. I imagine if you're watching this, you're watching it to see my reactions as we've kind of come through this journey together. But yeah, let me know what you think about the show in the comments below. As always, I've been your host, Trevor Starkey from TrevorTrove.com. You can follow me at SnarkyStarkey on Twitter. And until next time, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends.